Okay. Wow. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. I'm sure a lot of you guys are too, and folks. Thank you for attending the Automated Buildings Free Education Sessions. This is our opening session. And quick story. So as we all know, COVID has affected a lot of us, and our poor neighbors up to the north in Canada, especially in terms of travel and stuff, has become very restrictive. And so my good buddy Ken Sinclair, he says, "Hey Scott, you know, the AHR people would like us to try and put together a free education session, but I'm not going to be able to make it there." And I said, "Okay, Ken." I said, "Here's the deal." I said, "I'll produce it, you know, and get everything figured out, but you pick the people." And away we went. And we've been planning this pretty hard for about the last 2 months. And I can't say how excited I am with the group of speakers we have to present to you over the next 2 days and all the great information we're going to share with you that we could gather. It's long overdue, right? Our voices have been very quiet over the last couple of years, yet the technology has not. We, as a BAS industry, have hit almost like a rocket fever when it comes to new technology hitting our industry. And the changes are exponential. The changes are crazy that are going on in terms of moving us over to basically all IP control and connecting everything to the internet. And it's rapidly changing the landscape of the products, the services, how the contractors work in the field, how the owners look at value. And this is important information. And so Ken, Brad, myself, Mark, Kim, we set out to hopefully give you guys a little glimpse into that over the next 2 days. So that's what we're here to do, and that's what hopefully we accomplish. So I didn't introduce myself briefly. I'm Scott Cochran with Cochran Supply. I'm the president of Cochran Supply. I'm second generation. I've been doing this for over 25 years now. When I came into the industry, I was really fortunate to work with people whom built a life on the industry as well. And I learned a lot of the old ways, and I get to mix them with the new with my good buddy here, Mike Mitchell, my chief technology officer and IT guy. And we're a building controls distributor. So we distribute building controls primarily to contractors. And we sell lines from Honeywell, Johnson Controls, Distech, Belimo, whole bunch of different great lines that we represent. And with all the contractors we work with and product lines, we see a lot of things. And we feel like part of our goal as a company to service our customers is to share with everybody what we see. And so that's a lot of what I do. I try to write articles for Ken every month in Automated Buildings and share different thoughts with his audience. And we as a company, we strive to push technology and the industry in new directions. And we enjoy that because as I learned from my dad who was in the industry, if you're not having fun doing it, there's no reason to do it. So and this is all about fun when it comes to tech, you guys, in our eyes, and that's why we love doing it. So good stuff. So that's a little bit about me and Cochran Supply, and I'm going to introduce you now to my co-host, the head on the screen over here, Mr. Ken Sinclair with Automated Buildings.
My time to go?
Yep, hit it, Ken.
Hit it. This is it. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Scott, for stepping in and making this the best ever Automated Buildings free education sessions. The quality and the quantity of speakers you've added and the support from the industry has just absolutely been phenomenal. And so thanks to you. Kudos to Cochran and company, and kudos to the industry for supporting these. I think it's very important. With cancellation of Chicago last year, it's kind of left a giant hole in the industry, and we're all kind of looking for somebody to talk to and somebody to tell our news stories to. And if there's one thing that being in the industry for 50 years and running these sessions for 22 years has taught me, is it doesn't have anything to do with how much you know. It's about understanding how much you don't know, and also the fact that our total superpower is our ability to adapt. And adaptation is what we need to do to survive. And again, the last 2 years have taught us how to adapt. So we're getting good at it. We have to get even better. These sessions, as everyone talks about their sessions on the panel, if they could just expand a little bit and introduce them, because I'm extremely proud of the assembly of sessions that you have put together. Just great stuff. And kudos to you, Scott. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. So Ken, just briefly, like, go ahead, give us your big thought for the year. What are we looking at for this past year and the year coming? Give us a quick big picture thought from you, Ken, to kick this thing off.
Well, I think it's all about just trying to understand the changes that are upon us. But when you look back at both of our histories, Scott, that's what it's always been about, is just change. And he who first moves into the change and accepts it, there's no use whining that telling us how it used to be. I can tell those war stories better than anybody, and everybody glazes over as soon as I start talking about it. But people want to talk, and they want to understand how we're moving ahead. How are we dealing with these artificial intelligence? How are we dealing with metaverse? How are we going to use all of this data, and how are we going to control it? Just the changes that are afoot, the IT invasion. It's not really an invasion. It probably is an invasion. Isn't a bad word, but I don't think our industry sees that we're invading their industry as much as they're invading us. They've never had this operating the OT experience and the real time, so there's a lot of changes going on there. So it's just all about change, and it's about how fast you adapt for your survival.
Awesome. And Ken, have you ever seen a change as fast as it is today? Doesn't it seem like we're on a rocket ship these days?
I thought that was just because I was getting old. You mean the industry? You mean the industry is really changing that fast? I thought it was just me. I thought that, man, this stuff is falling on me and I can't deal with it. So I figured, I'm just getting old. But if it's starting, if you see it going by a little fast, telephone poles look like a picket fence. Yeah. That's
awesome. And so then from there, so Ken and I. So when we put this together, of course, we are two big heads. We are just talking heads, right, Ken? That's all we do. So we had to get some real people involved, and so that's where we bring our panelists in for a quick introductory discussion today. Let's start with Brad White from SES Consulting. How you doing today, Brad?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Great.
I'm
so
sorry I couldn't.
Intro?
Yeah, sure. I can give a quick intro. Sorry I'm not there in person. I would love to be, but this is, this is the next best thing. So I'm glad that big thanks to Cochrane Supply for making all of this happen, and especially enabling us to participate remotely. So I'm a consultant. I'm up in Vancouver, Canada, as Scott mentioned. We do a lot of work in existing buildings, and maybe I'll just give kind of a very quick plug for the sessions that I've got. So what we've got coming up is sort of the things driving my work today is a lot around decarbonization of buildings, making buildings more sustainable, and so we've got a session on that tomorrow, 11 o'clock in this room, which I encourage you all to attend. But what we're seeing is the use case for building automation data, I think, has become even more powerful, and that is very much linked to this push to make buildings smarter and more sustainable. I think we've always used data extensively in operations. We've been talking about fault detection diagnostics for a long time. Now we're starting to see, I would say, very, very compelling new cases for the data around helping us size and design these low carbon systems in buildings, helping us guide us through the transformation of buildings to be more sustainable. And at the same time, we've got our clients crying for buildings that are building automation systems that are more open and accessible. They're sick and frustrated with proprietary technology that they can't do anything with without calling the one service company in their town that has the license and paying through the nose for it. And so we're going to talk about that this afternoon in our session on open building systems. And I think you'll hear from a lot of people who are very passionate about opening up the technology in new and very exciting ways. So that's where I'm coming from.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Brad. So Brad, in terms of what you're seeing in terms of like owner expectations and things like that, can you tell us a little bit about the changes you've seen in the last couple of years?
I would say what I've seen from owners is they are increasingly unwilling to kind of accept the status quo. So I think these things that they've been griping about for forever. That I think everyone's always wanted their systems to be more open and accessible, and no one ever sets out to buy a proprietary system. I mean that's not something I've ever heard anybody say. But I would say there's been kind of an acceptance for that. I feel that going away. I think a lot of owners have kind of reached the point where they're looking to make major investments in their buildings for a variety of reasons. Some of it's COVID. I think we see a lot of owners taking advantage of their spaces that may still be sitting partly empty. They say this is a good time for us to get in there and do some of the things that we've wanted to do for a long time but couldn't because the space has been fully tenanted. And other sides of it are just the push to as I said, there's increasing pressure both from sort of within corporations, but also regulatory pressure from municipalities to really improve building performance and reduce carbon emissions in a dramatic way. Not the incremental improvements that we've been seeking in the past 5-10%, but 50, 80, 100% reductions in carbon emissions. So I think the combination of those things, we see building owners wanting to actually make big investments in their buildings. And not wanting to compromise, willing to kind of realizing that they've been through a couple of generations of building automation systems. They've made the same mistake a couple of times, sort of giving into the buying the quote unquote easy thing that is proprietary and realizing that long term it kind of bites them. So it's interesting. I think there is a lot more awareness among ownership now and building owners, and when they're making these investments, starting to prioritize things like openness, performance, proof of performance. Those are now at the top of the shopping list, and I would say, we see owners actually willing to pay a premium for them.
That's super cool. And Brad, how is that different from? I mean, that's a drastic change, right? From in the last couple of years, would you say? It's almost like they're actually, like there was murmur before, but now it's more like intent. Like it's actually, you think the tide is turning towards, a real change?
I do, yeah. I think I see that in the money being spent, and we've gone, we do part of our work is energy studies, energy audits, and we've always been recommending this stuff for years, and we'll see a little bit of uptake, but by and large we would see owners make small incremental improvements, but we're seeing now I'd say the largest investments both in building automation systems and sort of radical overhauls of mechanical systems that I've seen in the 15 years that I've been doing this, and owners willing to spend, not tens of thousands of dollars, but hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars to kind of do it right. I think a lot of them have been, interest rates are still low. A lot of them are sitting on some money. And I think that the combination of just, the opportunity to get into some of these spaces finally, regulatory pressure, corporate pressure. It seems like there's a lot of different stars aligning all at once that are starting to make some of these things a reality that we've been talking about for so long. So super exciting. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been that we're going to see some major change in buildings and in particular in existing buildings over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to your session tomorrow, Brad, with Craig Stevenson talking about this. So it's a great topic. I know here in the States, in the United States, we're in the midst of seeing some big change in terms of, I would say, the commitment towards a more sustainable building in America. And we're starting to hear news about that even today, right, Ken? You shared some articles about that today even.
Yes.
So that's an exciting time, not just in new technology, but also in truly the want for the industry to provide a better environment for tenants, right? I think we can all agree now it's real and it's going to really affect things over the next couple of years, and it's exciting as well. So
yeah, it just seems like it's a catalyst for big change and big investment. I'd say, it's been great for our business, and I'm sure a lot of others can say the same. So I think, regardless of the politics associated with sustainability and climate change, the fact is money is being spent on this, and I think that's a good thing for our industry.
Sure.
Yet another adaptation we need to do.
Yep, for sure. So Brad, so Brad's got a really cool session on decarbonization, and then Brad has also got a really neat session on open systems, correct? Correct, Brad?
That's right. Yeah, that's this afternoon. I think 3:30, if I've got the time right.
So real quick, what is an open system in your eyes? Just briefly. Loaded question.
You set me up for that one.
I know.
I mean, open means different things to different people. I would say, my definition of open is you can do with the system what you need to do without and able to select your service providers to kind of provide the best quality of service. You don't have to go to that same BAS vendor, same contractor to do every single piece of your system. You can say, hey, I want data acquisition. I want this best-in-class solution over here. I want that fault detection package, and I want, that sustainability energy monitoring package, and able to make them all work together, even though they may come from different sources and different vendors. Being able to kind of piece together a best-in-class, same as we do with PCs. We buy, the best Office suite, and you get the best database software, and you get the best email client, and you don't necessarily have to buy those all from a single vendor. You can if you want, if they've got a good solution for you, but you can piece together. I can use Adobe products, and I can use Microsoft products, and I can use it all together, and it all works beautifully on my PC. I think that's the holy grail of openness for building automation systems, where we can start to choose those best-in-class pieces and put them together in a way that's relatively seamless.
Until we get that cybersecurity breach, right? And that brings open to a whole new level, I guess. So, but it'll be a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to that one too, Brad. So awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Yep, fun stuff. So, okay, so then our next host, person on the panel, will move over to Miss Kimberly Brown. And Kim Brown, Cochrane Supply Chief
People Officer.
Yes. And Kim has also been in the industry for over 20 years, and she's going to share some of her perspective. Kimmy?
Okay. My name is Kim Brown. I've been with Cochrane Supply for about 15 years or so. Like a lot of people, I stumbled into the industry. I didn't even know it existed. And so for me, that's a big focus on what I bring to Cochrane Supply, is trying to get more talent and people in the industry, because it's the biggest industry that people don't know exists, and it affects everyone's life. So what can we do in outreach in different ways through education and recruiting to be good ambassadors for the industry, to bring more talent, because we're all starved right now for that.
Yep. Awesome, Kim. And so Kim has had just about every position at Cochrane Supply, from sales to operations. And but in her current role, as she mentioned, she's really focused on people. And one of the things that Kim and I work really hard on is bringing new people into the BAS industry and training them. We put a lot of focus on that, don't we, Kim?
Yeah. Professional development is huge, and we really try to look at what people's strengths are, so we can do job crafting and things where we can put people in places that plays to their strengths, because that overall makes the company better. So people are happier, more fulfilled with their roles, but also the company's getting more out of them because they enjoy what they do. So that's been really a big focus, and we promote from within the most we can. We look at every role at the company as, a way to get people in the door and then start training them up to be, the next generation of talent for us.
And interestingly enough, one of the things that we're struggling with is that there are no more people in the industry to hire.
No.
They're all working. So now we're having to take people from outside of the industry and first and foremost, try to promote the industry to them to make it interesting. And secondarily, bring them in and try to help them in a very short order understand some very complicated things. And so we have a methodology for it at Cochrane Supply, and Kim and Greg and Therese, I believe, are going to be sharing that today.
Yes, tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 12:30.
Yes.
Kim's hosting a session with Greg and Therese. And it's for people from maybe outside the industry that are looking to learn more about systems integration, about
BAS 101, what is building automation,
Right.
and how is that something that everybody needs to know about? And it's not a scary word. People sometimes hear building controls and they're like, oh, we don't want to go that way. Controls are scary.
And as all of you are in the building automation industry, because you would not be in this room if you were not, we would like you to promote this to people from the mechanical side that may be interested in controls. It's a nice way to learn more about it. I've said this more than once. In order for us to staff our future, we, the people in the industry, have to be the ambassadors. We're the ones who have to go to the public and say, hey, this stuff is pretty cool that we do. Like, I always say, like, like that stadium over there, you want to work on that? Or, we work on really cool buildings, really cool projects, and we get to do really neat things with these projects. And so it's important that we all push for more people into the BAS industry, and we'll be doing that session. And Kim, you're also hosting another session?
Therese is actually hosting it.
Therese?
Therese from Tridium has put together a panel of women, smart women, smarter buildings. And it's a whole host of women from different backgrounds in the industry. They're going to be talking about their experiences and how we can get more women in the room. So, it's nice today to see a handful of women in this room, but I still would like to see more. Women are 50% of the population, and yet they're less than 10% of this room is women. So how can we be better at that? And, just promoting more diversity and inclusion just in general.
Certainly. It's been Kim and I's best kept secret in the industry.
Yes.
We don't tell people that very often, but now, again, it's a staffing battle. So we're sharing all our best secrets now, but certainly everybody has a place in our industry, and it's important that we accept everybody in it. And because again, beggars can't be choosers, and we're all a fickle bunch to begin with. So awesome stuff. All right, good. And then anything else you'd like to share, Kim?
No, I think that's it.
No? Okay, cool. All right. So Kim's got some exciting sessions. All right. And finally, I saved the guy who's got the most to say for last.
Oh, thanks.
I wanted to make sure we have plenty of time for him. This fella, he really, again, 20 years plus I've known the man. Absolutely, probably one of the most brilliant minds in the industry when it comes to
let me get my wife on the phone. Hold on, let me get this recorded, please. No, sorry.
And somebody who has always helped this industry evolve. And I don't need to say much more, Mr. Mark Peacock.
Thanks, Scott. And
Yep.
again, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As we're going through this and thinking of things, obviously, we cannot get together and not think of COVID. All right, we've been there, done it, we're still going through it. But for me, with respect to COVID, the main thing that changed us all, whether you're a technology supplier, you're a business owner, a building owner, operator, or you're in the service business, you're a controls contractor, integrator, is expectations. For me, that is the number one thing that has occurred from COVID. Expectations, what do I mean by that? Is expectations, our buildings have to operate completely differently now than they ever have been before. So that's one. Two, the expectations of the building owner and the operator. And I'm going to kind of go off the reservation a little bit. And I get a lot of crap when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I believe while we have awesome technology and we're still going down the path of developing technology, it's not the technology that is driving our industry, it's the business side. And it's all about the business side of a building. And what do I mean by that? It's, yes, how it operates, how it performs, all the stuff we have heard for years. But now instead of the conversation being about energy savings, yes, don't get me wrong, that's all part of it. It's all about specific outcomes. And what are those outcomes that that building owner and operator really wants to achieve and what they are looking for? And then part of that too is that the outcomes, yes, are driven by technology, but part of the expectations now on all of us is they expect our systems, our controls, our whatevers to do more. And just think 5-6 years ago, yeah, we kind of talked about IAQ and a few other things. Now you cannot have a conversation without talking about indoor air quality, occupancy, all of that kind of good stuff. And, you know, also, I think one of the areas that I see as a result of this, of COVID now, we all have talked about the convergence of OT and IT. Been there, done it. Yes, I think we all agree. Yep, that is something that is occurring, has occurred, must occur. I now believe there's a convergence of the operational side and the workplace side. That is our next major sea change of convergence, as I see it, in buildings. And then part of that too is we talk about data. We can get all the data you want. I mean, we can get data that means nothing. We can get data that means something. But the real challenge remains is once we have that data is actually getting it together, bringing it all together and understanding it. And I think that's where, as far as I'm concerned, we as an industry, we are very far behind in trying to have people who truly can interpret and understand that data and apply it to better expectations, better outcomes, and so forth and so on. And then finally, I obviously made some notes, is the expectations is the building is now viewed as an asset. And they want to, building owners want to increase the value of that asset each and every day. So controls, smart systems, open systems, whatever, make that building much more valuable when they come to evaluate that particular building. And so again, I think there's that business side of the conversation that never took place 5, 6, 7 years ago is now front and center, and it's really being driven by more people getting involved and looking at this in the C-suite. So with that, I'll just leave it at that, whatever.
Can you tell us about your session?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I am hosting, participating, hosting a couple sessions. One is Project Haystack. My colleague, John Petsy, and I are going to talk about the importance of data and obviously where Haystack fits in and its part. And then I've put together what I call an all-star panel of industry influencers from all walks of life to have an open conversation about stuff within the industry. And again, I hope we agree on some things and I hope we disagree on some things. But we've got folks from a person from the engineering community, folks from the system integrator community, a gentleman from the Realcomm organization, and a smart building master system integrator. So we've got a good group of folks who I think will have a entertaining and energized conversation.
While I'm in heckling mode, Scott, can you also mention your programs? Because they've kind of got lost in the presentation here.
Wait, Ken, we still got 30 more minutes, buddy.
Okay, I can wait.
Don't worry.
I'm not going
on top
anywhere.
of it. I'm on top of it, so we got more time. All right, so back on Mark real quick. So I'm going to keep the spotlight on Mark for a minute. Okay, Mark, so we know about the sessions coming up, but just real quick, Haystack. I mean, it's a big deal, right? I mean, it's really changed the industry. I know you guys have worked for a long time on it and successfully. Can you just speak to some of the impact that you've seen yourself from the work you guys have done on that through the community?
Yeah, and again, it's all about organizing that data, tagging it, and making it ideal to use across any shareholder who needs the data, any platform, et cetera. We've seen a global adoption now, and we now equate roughly 45,000 to 50,000 instances or buildings in which Haystack has been brought in as far as part of the solution. And again, who's ever controls, it really doesn't matter. And we're also seeing it in specs, starting to pop up in specs, which is a good thing, because I think the folks who design and create our specs are now starting to see the value of data, and they're being asked by the building owners and operators, okay, tell me what controls, tell me all the standard Division 25 stuff, whatever. Now, what about the data side of it? And so we're starting to see that.
Cool.
Would you maybe also give a plug for the Connection magazine that's just online, because that's
You just did it, so
I
thanks.
just did. Well, no, but you got to read this.
So-
You guys got to read this magazine. It's way better than automated buildings.
So part of our initiative with the Haystack organization, and it's a 501c, it's nonprofit, is that we develop a twice a year magazine in which we get contributors from the Haystack community or the data community, and it's all written by them and whatever. So the latest issue is out, and you can find it on a link on Ken's site if you want, or go to Project Haystacks-org, and you can find it there as well.
Awesome. And then your second session, this is tomorrow. You got your all-star panel. What type of trouble are you hoping to whoop up with them? I mean, you got some controversy brewing, or what are you doing there?
We do, and the last person who I need to have real controversy, I need to have you on that panel.
You don't want me on that
panel.
panel.
No, absolutely. But no, I think, in talking to the group as we prepared for it and some of the questions, and, some of the things we cannot have the conversation without talking about COVID and what they learned from COVID, each in their respective fields and stuff like that. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of digital twins. We're going to talk about responsibility. Who's responsible for making the building safe, healthy, and ever? Is it the C-suite? Is it the facility management? Is it HR? Is it whoever, or a combination of thereof? Also, we're going to get into a conversation, again, depending on time, on EV stations and their upcoming roles now within the built environment. Should they be part of the built environment? Should they become part of the building automating platform as well? Should facility maintenance and management be responsible for these types of stations and so forth? And a few other surprises. We'll just keep this surprise for now.
And that is what time tomorrow?
You tell me. I think it's when is it
3:30 to 4:30.
Thank you.
3:30 to 4:30 tomorrow, and that will take you right into happy hour. So
and Scott's buying.
Perfect. It's a perfect way to wrap this whole thing up with a little bit of hot talk, right? A little bit of controversy. So
Absolutely.
Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you, Mark. So just really quick. So we highlighted a lot of the programs that we're going to be doing. A couple other topics I'd like to bring up. I'd like to just, we have Anto in the room. Anto's going to be hosting a session. Anto, could you stand up briefly? Sorry to put you on the spot. Anto, this afternoon, he's going to be hosting a session on a Coalition for Smarter Buildings.
Yeah, so I run a thing called Monday Live, so podcast we do every Monday. One of the things that's sort of come out of that last 6 months is an organization called Coalition for Smarter Buildings. We'll be talking about that at 30 this afternoon. Coalition to focus on how to make buildings smarter, and also to do this with a Washington DC federal angle as well as state and local government angle. It could be an interesting conversation.
I had the mic. I was about to hand it to you, but I was too late. So awesome. Thank you, Anto. And we're excited for that as well. So hold that.
Sure.
Second mic. All right, so as Ken mentioned, I'm also hosting some sessions, and the thrust of what I'm going to be focused on is really about how the industry has moved in all IP infrastructure. That'll be the first topic today, right after this. We at Cochrane Supply, being a vendor for quite a few different IP-based product lines, a couple summers ago, we started seeing the IP products get designed into new construction. And then this past summer, those projects became reality, they got installed. And now we're at the end of that life cycle on those projects. The projects are running. We're starting to get feedback from the owners about the performance of the building, also about the cost and about the design and about the good and the bad and the ugly, as it's kind of like our first designs, right? It's like when we went from pneumatic to RS-485, it was like a whole new way of designing a project. Well, the same thing happened a couple years ago with IP. And so we're fortunate in that we've seen it for a while now, and we're going to bring up a panel of experts who are going to help you all understand what they're seeing today, right? What are we seeing today? What happened, right? And what's the impact on today? So that'll be the session right after this. That'll be starting at 11:30 in this room. All the sessions, by the way, are in this room. And then tomorrow, the first session I'll be hosting is around what I call platform wars and data dynasties. And essentially what my theory is that when I started in the industry, I looked at the manufacturers' branches as sort of like the gods in the industry. They got all the big jobs, they had all the big owner relationships. Well, what I've seen in the last 10, 15 years is the independent controls contractors, whom became integrators, whom started to adopt their own software platforms on top of manufacturers, have created this new trend called an MSI. And they now are commanding some of the largest BAS relationships in the country. And the whole thing is switched. The independents now are the ones that are the driving force for a lot of the major projects that that we see come out today. And it's a total different time. Now, on top of that, with all these platforms, of course, we have layers of software going in, right? Well, who gets the data? Who gets the managed services after the project, right? It's a data dynasty. It's always been one. It's been whoever owned the owner's data owned the owner and all the services that went with it. It was a no-brainer. Everybody knew it. Well, now the data's all parsed out. Sometimes the owner puts it on their own servers and whatnot. So data dynasties, what is that like today? What is a data, how do you become the next great data dynasty in the BAS industry? So we're going to jump into those topics. I got a great panel for that too. That's tomorrow. So super excited for that one as well.
Scott, by the way, it says your next one is 11, not 11.
Yeah, it's 11.
Oh, thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. I can't, like these glasses, I can't see down with them, but I need I'm getting old. I probably need bifocals. So, yeah. But anyways, so thank you for that. So that's at 11. All right. So we have a few minutes left here today. And what I'd like to do now is, this is actually the only real working session that that Mr. Ken Sinclair is gonna work in, okay? So we're so fortunate to have him, 50 plus years experience in the industry. And while I can berate him with questions, I would like to prompt the audience. Is there any questions for myself, Ken, or anybody on the panel to start, especially Ken?
Can I just ask one thing? In y'all's different businesses, I'd just like to get a poll. How many end users are in here by chance? One, thank you. How many system integrators / contractors? Majority. How about technology providers? Cool. Okay, thanks.
All right, I got the mic. First question.
Yeah. This will kind of be for all the panelists. First off, Mark, I want to appreciate your perspective on the expectation, because I think that now, in order to be like a high-level commercial real estate building, you have to not just say that you're a really nice-looking building and look pretty, but you're also going to have to prove that you have quality air, and you're going to have a zero carbon plan, all that stuff. But what I really wanted to ask about was, Brad's comment around the openness, and I know that everybody on this panel really believes in open platforms. But what I wonder about with that is, are we creating kind of an additional future problem? And the way I look at it is kind of looking at like cable companies with television. Everybody hated their cable provider back when that was your only option, and now we have a million options. But I also have options I don't even know I'm still paying for because there's so many providers for every different app. So how are we going to protect consumers or customers in the future when they do start running into, I've got 50 different software applications that I want to put on my BAS. How do I manage all these licenses? And is there any kind of forethought that we're doing around that? Because Contractor, you guys deal with that all the time with your licensing, so you know how difficult this can be. So as it scales out and you have more than just a Tritium or more than just something like that you have to deal with, what can we provide for the customers that will kind of help them navigate that, if anything?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start. I think one of the keys now is a properly designed, cyber-secured OT network. It starts with understanding what you're putting on your network, what it does, and how it's managed. I mean, that's the first thing that we see a lot of people in the building side missing. They throw a bunch of software on their business networks. They expect their IT departments to keep track of all this software. And when it all comes push to shove, they can't get what they need when they need it because they didn't organize it or engineer an OT network properly to support themselves properly. IT is all about change. So as we move over to this IT environment, the whole thing's got to be designed to change. And it's got to be ready to be changed because of cybersecurity, and it's an ongoing thing that will require constant change. But I think my opinion is it's all about that initial engineering of that OT network and how you manage and organize it.
I think to add what you said, Scott, and good question, is that I think part of technology providers and system integrators, the folks who deliver this stuff, is to create some kind of tool set or whatever that keeps an inventory of what you got. Because let's face it, how many of us have walked into buildings and the owner or the facility person says, oh, we got this and this, and you open up a closet and go, what is this? You know, we see that each and every day. So I think it's part of the management of that building operating platform to know what apps you have on there, what software you have on there. But we've got to create something for the building owner. And one other thing is, I've also noticed that change is the building owners have gotten much more involved now in making their decisions and what they want to do. They have more knowledgeable people in the space than they did 5 or 6 years ago. And so, which I think is a good thing that helps versus an absentee owner or something like that. Just put the stuff in. I don't care. I don't give a crap about it. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the premise of the question. I mean, we've got clients who have one piece of software that they're paying for and not using. So, I mean, as we get more and more, it's going to get worse. And it's funny because my role a lot of the times with clients is actually talking them out of buying software. Because I have seen the same thing repeat often enough where they're kind of sold a bill of goods, but they don't have the organizational capacity to make use of the tools that they're being sold. It's funny, as engineers, we actually, our biggest challenge is actually working with the people in the building. So we spend a lot of time coaching and mentoring and kind of by necessity helping them set up sort of the organizational infrastructure that they would need to then even take on something as basic as a fault detection diagnostics tool to allow them to be proactive about their maintenance. Even that is still a struggle for a lot of organizations. It's kind of my classic example for the piece of software that people are still buying today and then not using. So I think part of it is those who are sort of recommending this software. I mean, first of all, there's lots of very aggressive salespeople out there right now pushing lots and lots of different software. So I think building owners need to get very savvy, and whether that's by hiring third-party advisors or developing in-house expertise, but to get really scrutinize all of these purchases and only taking on board things that they have the capacity to manage. And then once they do, everything that Mark and Scott said about making sure they've got to properly manage and not just counting on the IT department to look after it for you. I agree with all that, but I think step one is to be very, very skeptical about every new purchase of software. And my experience has been the vast majority have delivered only a fraction of their purported value to the owners, because and it may be nothing against the tool. It just may be the organization, people running the building have no capacity to be able to use these tools. So I think that's job number one, is making sure that anything that goes into the building, it can actually be used by the people in the building.
Awesome, great question. More audience questions? In the back?
Awesome.
We'll get you next. Gotcha.
Pertaining, I guess, to Ken Scott, we're a contractor. We're at multiple lines. We talk about hiring people. We hire somebody. We're at multiple lines. So what is your recommendation? If we are able to find that person and get them in here and get them trained, you pick out person A and train them on brand A, or do you try to cross train them on all brands, or what would be your recommendations on board and training someone new? Do we hit them with all five within the first year? How do you handle that?
I think it really depends on what their current background is and what their capacity is to learn, because everyone learns differently. So some people are going to probably be able to pick up, 5 product lines in a year and be rock stars, but some people may need a more tailored approach to that, where it's a little more strategic. And it also depends on your business needs. What do you really need them to do to be effective for you right away? So is that pick one line for now, laser focus on that and go on? So I don't think you can apply a one size fits all approach, because it's very individual how you can grow your people. I think mentorship is a great way to do that as well, by partnering them up with someone else in the industry that's going to be able to give them a well-rounded experience, because ultimately that's going to be very important for what you need. Because if you silo people too much, then they don't always have the correct perspective down the road.
And that makes sure I understood. So you were talking about how you guys do things. You do not offer that.
We do offer that training. Yeah, we have a theory of BAS class, and the purpose of that class is to teach people from outside the industry just the vocabulary of the industry. Okay, that's what, when I got into the industry, when I joined the industry, my dad and people who've been in the industry for a long time, they said, son, you got to learn the vocabulary, because once somebody learns the vocabulary of the industry, the product line is just a deviation of the vocabulary, right? But they got to understand the vocabulary first before you start throwing product lines at them, right? That's what we found is the critical thing, is the vocabulary. And we do have a very special vocabulary. We got a lot of acronyms. So Mike Mitchell right here, CTO of Cochrane Supply, came to work with us forever ago. Can I say it? Can I tell the story? So Mike came to us with a complete IT background and brilliant IT guy. Of course, we put him with the customers right away on some projects, and he's sitting looking at a drawing, and he announces to the group, he says, what are these valve boxes? What am I supposed to do with these? So like I said, we have acronyms, we got a vocabulary, and we always try to teach that first. Right behind you, I had another question over here.
Yeah, you guys have talked a lot about how you see owners driving more towards wanting to look at their data, look at their buildings to make changes. I'm just curious, can you give examples of the specific motivations that building owners have to do data analysis on their building performance? What outcomes have you actually seen come about because of that?
Yeah, Brad, could you come in on that one? Did you hear that
Sure.
question?
Yeah, no, I could hear it. Yeah. And this is fairly new. I think, I think a lot of the data analysis was a capability looking for a problem to solve up until very recently. So where we're finding really practical applications for it is when owners are looking to make kind of major changes to their building systems. And in our world, a lot of it's being driven by the drive to reduce carbon emissions. So the classic examples we're installing a big air to water heat pump to take on a bunch of the heating load, or we're converting over the domestic hot water from natural gas to now we're using carbon dioxide heat pumps, which is carbon dioxide is a refrigerant in the heat pump. But these systems operate very differently than a gas boiler. They have temperature limitations. They're very sensitive to flow. Performance varies with outdoor air temperature. All kinds of different things that we've never really had to consider. So we'll use the data to answer some very basic questions. So we'll plot heating load in a building versus outdoor air temperature and get a really good sense in real time. And so we'll take like supply and return water temperatures and pump flows if we have it, or we'll take it off balancing reports, and we'll kind of build this virtual model of that load in the building. And then we see, okay, we can now see what the load is at different temperatures. We know how many hours we spend at each temperature and how much energy we use at each temperature. And so then we can size the heat pump appropriately. So I mean, the thing with heat pumps is they're compared to a boiler, every BTU costs you like 10 times as much as a gas boiler. So getting the cost right is very, very important. You don't want to oversize these systems too much. It's because it's really expensive to do so. We're using the data to size the system based on actual performance. In some cases, we'll test the building. We'll say, okay, we need to drop the hot water supply temperature from 170 down to 150 to make this heat pump work. Let's do that, and then watch what happens and collect data on room temperatures, all that kind of thing.
So I'll add something to that, and from the technical perspective, that's Brad. I'm not a technical guy. Let's look at it from the business perspective. Is this to say, all right, I'm collecting data on all my equipment, my rooftop units, my air handler units, or whatever the case is. I'm seeing they're not functioning the way they were intended to. Think commissioning. So you get all of that done. Now, that can extend the life of that particular unit by X amount of years. So in other words, let's say the average rooftop unit is 15 years, whatever it is. By getting the data, looking at the data constantly, you can maximize the lifetime value of that rooftop unit and extend it for another, let's say, 5 years. So what does that do in real estate speak? That allows the building owner and the operator then to utilize that money in other CapEx, OpEx, and reapportionate the money and put it elsewhere. So you can do a lot of different things once you have that base that Brad talked about.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Eric, did you have a question up front here?
Yeah, I just got to ask, I love the idea of a chief people officer. Could you give me a job description? I want to see if maybe I might qualify someplace for that.
It's on.
So this is a new role for me, started about a month ago. So my focus really is on not just the metrics-based older way of looking at HR, but more of thinking about it holistically, where people are first, especially at a place like Contractor Supply where we're a distributor. We don't manufacture products. Our people are our business. So we want the best people that we can get. And so my job is to really focus on recruiting and finding awesome people for the industry, teaching them what the industry is. And then, like I mentioned earlier, advancing their career through development. So big focus on the people first. That's really where the title comes from.
So a lot of finding them. So
Yeah.
really focus on that.
And retaining them, making sure the company culture is good, that we're a place people want to work.
Any clues on where to find them?
It's really hard. I spend a lot of time doing that. Networking is great, obviously. Trying to meet new people at events like this is always super important. Always making sure that you're building a pipeline by saying, let me know if you're ever available, or, people will approach us all the time asking us to work here because they know that we're a great place to work. So, our people are big ambassadors for our company because they enjoy what they do. And we make sure that that's something that's going to stay that way.
One more. I'm already loud.
You loud? Come on.
Just a quick question. Our industry still seems to be struggling with selling products that don't involve trucks and ladders and stuff like that.
what's the secret to selling analytics, hosted services, which I kind of see as the solution to his problem? You know, you don't have to manage software, we just subscribe to it, right? So
I think it's to me, it's understanding true value. You know, just throwing software at people to throw software at people to sell it. I mean, you know, there's a lot of that. But if you have a need in your building and there's a software that can answer that need, that's value, right? So it's about, I mean, to me, it's about value. I mean, you can't sell software to a customer that you don't understand that customer. I mean, you got to understand your customer and what their needs are. And if the software meets their needs, you probably got a sale.
when is the traditional building automation and control contractor the right path to market, you think, for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're the ones who can come back in and achieve the goals that you're looking for. A lot of times in energy efficiency or operational efficiency, they have their fingers on all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's certainly the right people to bring it to market.
And I think to add to a good answer, Scott, and I think to add to that is also having the conversation with the right people who understand the true value behind this, not somebody who, oh, well, I've got to just make sure my AC is running functionally or whatever. And again, nothing against that type of person. They're equally as important. But again, that value, I think, comes with speaking to the right conversation. And I personally believe that should be part of the initial conversation when you're talking about the outcomes, the strategy. What does this building owner want to accomplish to get out of their building or buildings each and every day?
Or financial stuff?
Well, finance is just part of it.
Well, also, I found that most really, really good MSIs approach their customers and try to get in a position where they're thought of as a trusted advisor, right? So anything that has to do with that end user's building, right, or its facilities, whether it's operational technology or anything else, they come to you first, which will allow you to go out and find resources, whether in-house or externally, to put together a plan, right? And it goes back to, what he said, you have to talk to the right people. But if they trust you and you're looked at as a trusted advisor, not just a contractor, then you get those opportunities.
I've got a small example on that from a local control contractor here. Kind of building on that point is they used to just sell fault detection packages, and they're running into the same problem talked about before, where there was no uptake, nobody was really using them. A few owners would, but by and large they just kind of sat there and they'd pay for a year subscription and then that would be it. So what they pivoted to doing was saying, okay, we're not going to sell you the software package anymore. We're going to make it part of our service package. We're going to deploy the software, but we're going to be the ones using it. This isn't a tool for you anymore. We're going to use it to offer you a higher quality of service. And then, the things that it finds we'll use as part of our service routine, and we'll also, just let you know what it says, and we'll bring forward the action items for your consideration. And they've had a lot more success with that approach than they did trying to just sell software licenses. When they integrated it as part of their service package, I think that's when all of a sudden, use of the software and kind of sales of the software went through the roof, because all of a sudden there was real value there.
And then as the IT suite has become much more involved in conversations and decisions, are we that far off from truly offering a complete as a service solution from the hardware, from the software? Because again, at the end of the day, the hardware, a term that I like to use, is the data and the connectivity contained within the hardware is much more valuable than the piece of hardware. And the hardware is just an enabler to connect, to help integrate, to help interoperate and get the data. And I believe we are not that far off from a complete walking in. And again, it depends on the size of the opportunity, not your small to medium-sized building, but multi-site, multi-campus, where it's everything as a service, one flat fee per month, and that's it.
All right, so this gentleman asked a great question, which I'm sitting here thinking, it's 2022. Let's move from schlepping brands and logos and parts and solving problems and focusing on outcomes. All of a sudden, the wrenches and the trucks and all that sort of disappears. Doesn't matter what you're then interacting. You're solving problems and you're focused on the outcomes that matter. That's a great turning point.
Solutions for that.
It is, and that's a great closing to the opening session. So,
Bill, see what you did, you know?
Way to close it, Bill. So thank you, Ken, my co-host.